but he was very cooperative. And then last month, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago, he took terribly ill, and we rushed him to hospital, and we were told that this was the final stretch. The assumption was made that his illness, he had turned yellow, that it was the end for him. I called our naturopath, and he said, no, I think Dr. Clark's book has been working for him and her treatment. I think he has gallstones. And sure enough, the next day, he had passed several gallstones, and he started to improve. And the same doctor, said it was a miracle. And he got so much better that he is now better than he's been in 3 years. His color is perfectly normal. He's got much more energy, and he has his spirit back. And the sure sign is that my parents are indulging in the sort of banter that they used to do and hadn't done for a few years because he just hadn't been himself. So he's feeling very well now. I don't think he quite knows himself what has happened or how he cooperated all along and accepted on faith taking the herbs. My 4-year-old daughter still has her grandfather, and he's, as I say, better than he's been in at least 3 years. So Dr. Clark, I want to thank you most sincerely for the gift that you've given my family.
Thank you for that beautiful story. I want to tell you that we're really still only at third base with the cancer story, though. I gave you the part I like to think is part 2, the malignant part. That's what's in the cancer book. Remember, I have a page of questions in the book called Some Biological Questions, and I say there, what's the tumor made of? We know what the malignancy is, but before the malignancy, there was a benign tumor. And what is that made of? And I have a number of those answers now that they will come along into the book as I get it out. But we're still at third base. We're not all the way home yet. It's a very complicated story, as you can see. There's copper, there's fungus, there's certain bacteria, and so on. It's much more complicated than I ever thought, but we'll get there.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful advice. I love it. There is Donnie Rittenhouse has a very beautiful, very interesting story to tell us also. I wish you would bring yourself in the center microphone. Thank you.
26 years ago, I had my first child. She spent the first 10 months of her life having seizures, and she spent the first 3 years of her life on phenobarb. Through the years, she's had many, many health problems, and we despaired. We looked, we went to doctors, and never really found any answers. But 3.5 years ago, her doctor decided to do a blood test on her and found her prolactin level was at 80. I understand the prolactin, normal prolactin level, the hormone prolactin, should be about 10. 2 years ago, she had an MRI. The prolactin level suggested that she would have a growth on her pituitary, very close to the optic nerve, obviously close to the brain. And this was very disturbing for us, of course. And last June, we did another blood test. Her prolactin level was at 120. And another MRI was ordered. We were anticipating surgery. in June, I luckily bumped into Sandra Pryor and Dr. Clark's information. And the beginning, July 1, day 1, we began the 20-day parasite program. Her MRI was in August. Her blood test was at the end of August. And she was called in for her appointment, and we all expected the worst. The doctor kept flipping through the pages, not understanding what she was reading. The growth was no longer there, and her prolactin level was at 10. We were absolutely thrilled, and thank you very, very much. And we are passing on the information to anyone and everyone who will listen to us. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, because it gives the other parents hope.
What I'd like to do is share with you a letter that was, 2 letters actually, that were given to us in the office by a gentleman by the name of John Rolls, who lives in Huntsville, Ontario. He wasn't able to be here this evening because he's down in Florida. And I understand that, he says, I understand that we got a call from him last week, and he said, I understand that Dr. Clark is going to be in Florida, and I'm going to stay down here rather than come back home, and that's where I'm going to go and see her. However, this is a story about John Rolls, who had liver cancer, and it was inoperable. And this is a letter that we received from him, My Lifeline. 5 years ago, on November the 9th, I was diagnosed as having cancer of the colon, and it was suggested that I consider having it operated on immediately. Dr. Mackenzie performed the anterior resection in early December. On a follow-up interview with the surgeon, I was informed that the cancer had spread into the lymph nodes and that chemotherapy was needed. I agreed to the course of treatment, which lasted approximately 1 year. Dr. Malcolm Moore of the Princess Margaret Hospital placed me under his care. I remained completely well until May of 1994, when I was diagnosed with cancer of the liver, which was assessed for the possibility of surgery. It was felt, however, to be inoperable due to the proximity to vascular structures. A chiropractic doctor, a family friend, strongly recommended that I purchase a bottle of Essiac at the health food store, which I did. When I finished 3 bottles, I returned for a fourth. The store was out of it, and I was directed to Consumer Health, about 10 blocks east on the same street. I was able to purchase additional supplies there. I was also at that time, that was September 94, introduced to a book entitled The Cure for All Cancers by Dr. Hulda Clark. I purchased the book and read it immediately. It made perfect sense to me, having studied medicine before I joined the Air Force during the 1939 war. It was just like someone threw me a lifeline, which I grabbed a hold of and religiously adhered to the book's instructions. 9 months later, I am completely clear of the cancer of the liver, for which I am eternally grateful. It is my firm belief that the 3 herbs, freshly ground cloves, tincture of black walnut hulls, and wormwood, if taken religiously, will definitely cure all cancers. Signed, John Rolls. And this is a letter that he faxed to us about a week ago from Florida, and it's a letter from the Princess Margaret Hospital, and it's regarding John C. Rolls, and it says, to whom it may concern, dated the 11th of October. Mr. John C. Rolls continues to be a patient under the care of Dr. Malcolm Moore at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Mr. Rolls received a year of adjuvant chemotherapy following the resection of a Dukes C2 adenocarcinoma of the sigmoid colon in November of 1992. He was well until just over 1 year ago when he